talking about what loan officers say to realtors, I mean, tell me what you believe is the number one thing that a realtor is looking for from a loan officer when you meet a realtor for the first time.
Communication.
I mean, communication? Okay.
Yep.
What do you think is the goal of every realtor when they give a referral to a loan officer?
Get a paycheck.
You know what? It's funny you say that. So I did a presentation several weeks back with a group of realtors at a real estate office, and I asked the question before I really started into my conversation with them. I said, "So how do you define a successful transaction?" And there was about 4 of them that said a paycheck. I was like, "Wow, that's amazing." A couple of them said not to get yelled at. Some of them said not to get fired. Some of them said to close on time. And the broker, this was the most powerful part of it, the broker stood up and goes, "It's getting a referral." And I sat there for a second and I looked at him and I go, "There's a reason why you're the broker." I said, every other person in your staff believes that the definition of a successful transaction is all about them. It's all about them and getting what they want, whether it's their reputation, whether it's a paycheck, whether it's not being yelled at. It had more to do with a very self-centric perspective. And I said, but the broker stood up and says a referral, and I said, that's what I believe too. And so my follow-up question to them was really simple. I said, how many of you in here would rather work with a lead versus a referral? And what would you define as a lead? Chuck?
Well, a referral is going to be something warm. I could define that better. A lead's going to be whatever.
Just the name, right?
A million things. Yeah.
More often than not, a lead is not that convertible, meaning there's a higher likelihood that you'll convert a referral than you would a lead. And so when I asked that question, every realtor in the room raised their hand and said, I would prefer to work with a referral. And I said, but isn't that amazing? Your definition of a successful transaction is a paycheck, but the true definition of what you guys are all after is a referral. I said, can you guys see the disconnect between what you want versus what you need? And the reality is most of us go into transactions feeling like we need to get paid because that's the point in which our life is at, and we never really take the time to recognize the value of the relationship and what it means to truly amplify it to get what we want or what we deserve. And it really set the tone, I think, for a lot of the agents that I talk to, because I used to have this conversation with agents all the time. And it really kind of sets the stage for where you want their mindset to be when you start a relationship. Because in all fairness, if you don't know what your audience truly wants, how are you supposed to ever really be a consultant to help to really kind of define what they're after and what you're after to see if you guys are a good fit? Because there's a lot of realtors out there, to be honest, Chuck, and I'm sure you know this as best as anybody. Most of them make below $35,000 to $40,000 a year.
Yes.
And in my opinion, and in my opinion, I never wanted to bank my financial success on people who barely made enough money to pay their bills. Because if you think about it, somebody who shows up in front of a client who's in a very need-based mindset, they're never going to fully grasp the concept of what it means to be referable, because all they care about is being a tool to get them a paycheck. That's all it ends up being. They end up acting like whatever they need to be in order to get that loan to closing without any thought to what the ramifications are if they don't manage the relationship properly. Would you agree to that?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the greatest things that I have found, or one of the most eye-opening things that I have realized, is that we generally do an amazing job for our clients. There's no question, Chuck, that you probably are better than most at your craft. There's probably no debating that you know your business, you know clients, you know human relations, you know realtors better than most loan officers. You are not a work at a bank, credit union, internet shop type loan officer. You're more of a consultant. Would that be a fair statement?
Correct.
You perceive yourself to be more of a consultant than you do to be just an order taker or a tool.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So then that begs the question, if you're going to be that consultant and you believe your value is greater than most other loan officers who compete for the business that's out there, how do you differentiate yourself in that first 5 to 15 minutes to make the realtor not see you as somebody else? Meaning to say that a realtor's perception of a loan officer has really been created by all the other fools that have come and knocked on their door and have failed miserably. And that's really why the realtor's talking to you, because they have not had a good experience up to this point, or they're in a situation where they don't like the lender they're currently working with. So how do you project your value when what is being said out in the marketplace is basically the bare bones minimum to get into any business? They talk about being honest. They talk about being upfront. They talk about being communicative. They talk about, caring. They talk about being available. They talk about all these things that, if you really looked at it, doesn't really make you a consultant. It just makes you needy. It makes you basically, it makes you very commoditized. And so what I'm hoping to accomplish, or what I believe I'm going to accomplish over the next several weeks with you guys, and I'm recording this call so I can send it to Steve. What I believe that the next several weeks are going to provide you is a better chance at articulating your value to where your realtors are going to sit up and take notice, and we're going to be able to shift the attention from it all being about them to making it being more about you. Would that feel good if the realtor started to ask you questions and started to look at you like you were the prize, as opposed to us looking at them like we needed a, like a 10-year-old kid looking at them like they had a bag of candy and we wanted a piece?
That would be great. And to second that, if you or Ramsey or anyone at SMP can help me figure out how to get in people that in front of realtors that have the wherewithal and the intelligence to even grasp that, I'll bow at your guys' feet.
Well, I'm not going to profess that I know where the realtors are. I know that there are some in this industry, but I will tell you, brother, in my 20-year career, I ended with 5 realtors that I considered my stable, and out of those 5, I provided, in 2012, I provided 25 closable deals to my 5 realtors, and that didn't account for any of those 25 having a listing. I honestly believed, and I followed up with my actions, I honestly believed that the realtors that I worked with had a very healthy partnership with me. They needed me as much as I needed them, and they didn't come to me because they needed me. They came to me because they saw the value in what it is that I provided them and their clients. But it goes to show you that of all the listing agents that I worked with, of all the realtor lunches that I've had, I ended with 5. I had a handful of financial planners and CPAs and attorneys, but I had 5 realtors. And out of that mix of associated relationships, I still generated 63% of my $15 million in 2012 from past client and current client referrals. I don't believe that if you're going to approach this business and you only have one pillar, meaning you believe that your sole income stream is going to come from realtors, you're going to be extremely disappointed month in and month out, because realtors as a whole are unpredictable. They're very lazy, and they're not very driven as a whole. There are a few exceptions, but when you diversify your business, going from realtors being a pillar, your associated relationships being a pillar, your current clients being a pillar, and your past clients being a pillar, you have 4 legs of a table that you can strategize, and at any given point during the month or the week, you can find marketing opportunities or ways of generating business out of those. So you diversify yourself to the point where you're not leaning on one set of one pillar, which, in my opinion, I said it in the beginning, I never believed that a realtor was going to be the success, it was never going to provide me the success that I needed to be, where I wanted to be economically. So here's what we're eventually going to get into, and that's probably going to be next week. What we're going to get into next week is really starting with, what is it that we say that makes a realtor sit back and go, wow, this isn't your typical loan officer. And what I mean by that is this. Yeah, I'm not a decorator. I don't know if you're the decorator in the house or not, but my wife's the decorator. But I will tell you that we have several pictures in our house that have changed frames over the years. And I will tell you that every time my wife changes a frame on a picture, it changes the way the picture looks. Would you agree?
Yep.
And every time my wife hangs it on a wall, she hangs it in a different wall or she hangs it in different lighting. The picture's still the same, but my perception of the picture is totally different. And what I want to get to the point of is, I don't want us to fall into the trap of what a realtor believes we are before we've had a chance to define it for ourselves. And that's where I think many of the loan officers that call in realtors fail at, and that's why it's become so, it's why the level of call reluctance in our business has gotten to a critical point, because frankly, picking up the phone and calling an agent when you know for a fact that that agent believes that you're a nothing or you're a nobody or you aren't any farther as good as until your rates and your programs are discussed, then I'm going to tell you that's a total lie. The success that I'm having with a group of these loan officers who are having these meetings with these realtors, and these realtors are now quickly being shifted from being the prize to the loan officers now being the prize. And it's a really simple concept. It's a really simple process. But the fact is that nobody's ever trained the consultant and us to come out and talk to realtors in that manner. We still believe that realtors are the prize. We, between our ears, believe that they possess all the power in the relationship. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you really wanted to sell your house, Chuck, you could go to Home Depot, get a for sale by owner box, put a sign in your lawn, go onto Facebook, go onto Instagram, go onto Twitter, and mass mail out your marketing campaign that you created for yourself for your home, and you'd probably have just as much success selling your home as a realtor would. The truth is that realtors, when you ask them what they do to get paid, will never be able to give you a value proposition that will ever help elevate their mindset or their image in front of their clients. And I think I talked to you about it when we talked the first time. We talked about being a consultant, a negotiator, and a manager of fears and expectations. Did we?
No, I don't know.
No, okay.
I don't think so.
All right, so one of the first things that we're going to, that's okay. One of the first things that I want to focus on with both you and Steve is understanding what you guys get paid to do. Because one of the things that we have to first define for ourselves is, what is it that we tell people that we do for a living? And the reality is, if we tell them that we're a loan officer, it's no different than telling them that we're a used car salesman. It's no different than telling them that we're a lawyer. It's no different than telling them that we are a garbage man. In my opinion, the stigma of what a loan officer is so negative that the moment we get asked what we do for a living, I always hesitated. I hated the term loan officer. How about you?
I do. That was actually something I jotted down. I was going to have you help me with a title. Actually, it's been something on my mind.
Okay. Being a loan officer isn't a bad thing. What's bad about it is all the people that claim to be a loan officer that fail miserably at being a loan officer. But the truth is, my friend, what you get paid to do is to close loans. But your purpose is to originate relationships. Your number one reason of existing in this industry is not to close loans. It's to generate relationships. And the only way that I know that works almost perfectly to generate relationships and still have balance in your life, still have validation in your work, is to get people to talk about you and have them refer you or direct people towards you. I know I prefer when people call me and say, hey, Doug, I need your help buying a house. My best friend said you did really good for them. I would much rather get 4 of those phone calls a day or 4 of those phone calls a week than anything else. And that's probably why I lasted for 20 years in the business. Which one would you prefer? Would you prefer picking up the phone, calling people who don't know you, like you, and trust you, or would you rather field calls from people reaching out to you, asking you for help because they already believe that they know you, like you, and trust you?
No, I'd rather prefer warm.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm actually a believer if you do it right, you should really never need to make a cold call.
Okay,
or
so
let me rephrase that. If you do it right, you have the option of whether or not you make a cold call. There's always a value in a cold call, but you should have the option.
Of course. So let's talk about a mindset. So there's 3 different mindsets that you can basically categorize most salespeople in. There's the giver, there's the taker, and there's the matcher. We know what a giver is. I believe I'm a giver. I believe you're a giver. I know people that are takers. I'm sure you know as well.
Giver, taker, matcher?
Matcher.
I'm taking notes.
And a matcher.
Giver, taker, matcher.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and the matcher is the one that plays both sides of the coin. Which do you think of those 3 is the least successful in business, in sales?
The taker.
Okay. It's actually the giver.
Okay.
The reason the giver is the most unsuccessful, my friend, is because the giver constantly gives themselves every day, and at some point they give away so much they get nothing in return, and they feel defeated. They pull the Charlie Brown. They put their head down and they constantly just mope and grumble because every time they do something great for somebody, it seems to go unnoticed. It doesn't get recognized. They don't ever get validation, and pretty soon they get pretty cynical about it. The taker does all right because they take when opportunity presents itself, but that never really produces any monumental success. The matcher is somebody that never really sees monumental success either because they never really understand the true meaning of what it means to be a giver or a taker. So with that being said, which do you think, as a guess, is the most successful of the 3?
Matcher.
It's going to be the giver again, but with one little caveat. The giver has a request. When you do your...
I'm confused. Hold on.
Yep. You heard me right. Yep, you heard me.
The first question, giver was wrong, and now giver is right. Am I following you?
Yep. The giver is wrong. The giver is the least successful because they never have a request. The giver can be the most successful when they have a request. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that.
Let me jot. I'm jotting this crap. Let me get this down. This is new to me.
This is being recorded, so you can always listen to it again.
It's not often I come across somebody that teaches me something new, and when they do, I like to get it written down. And you're actually doing that. It's
awesome.
Least successful until they meet the giving with a request. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. So let me give you an example. How many times during a process do you think or do you believe you've heard the word thank you? Like how many times during your process of closing loans, or for that matter, anything? Let's just say
never.
It's...
Well, in life all the time, because I'm amazing.
Okay.
But in terms of
what about
in the loan industry, I never hear a thank you.
You never do. Okay.
Never.
Well, that's sad. That's unfortunate. But I'm willing to bet you're wrong. I'm willing to bet you that there are times.
Well, my first time, I've always focused on first-time buyers just because I just have a love for people. And for most people, I'll get tears and hugs and thank yous. But other than that, nobody in the industry.
All right, that's fine. That's perfect. But you hit the nail on the head for me, and you're making my case for you. So you already have an idea of what it feels like to get a thank you, which means that you are by nature a giver. People who receive from others tend to say thank you. My fear is, or what I believe is that you respond with what we all typically say. My pleasure. I was glad to help. Glad I could be there for you. It's my job. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Whatever the case is, we typically acknowledge the note of gratitude by simply politely closing the door in front of our client's face. Would that be a fair guess?
This is making sense. This is new thinking for me, so I'm soaking it in, and a lot of light bulbs are going off.
Here's what ends up. Yep. Here's what's happening, is that and I'm going to teach you how to do this more effectively. We typically are very amazing, very talented givers, but we miss out on seizing the opportunities that are presented to us day in and day out inside of our business. We don't capitalize on referable moments. We, by nature, just by who you are, brother, orchestrate referable situations, but instead of capitalizing on them, we simply tap them on the head and push them along and move on to the next duty or task that we're focused on, and we lose sight of the bigger picture. Now, there's a whole art to this. There's an entire mindset around this that has to happen well beyond or well before this whole interaction takes place. But I'm going to give you a little homework assignment, and it's going to be super easy, and I want you to try it for the next 7 days until we talk again next week. And the conversation goes like this. Every time you hear the word thank you from your wife, from a friend, from anybody you're doing business with, I want you to respond this way. And this is learning how to recondition your brain to start paying attention to this more, because I want you to become acutely aware of how many times a day you're doing things that you're giving yourself away to, so that you can start learning how to react in a way that's more validating for you. And that is, when you hear the word thank you or any type of an appreciative statement, your response is no longer going to be what you typically have said. It's going to be, thanks for noticing. That's it. We're going to expand on that, but the response that you're going to give right now is going to be a very simple, hey, thanks for noticing. And what it's eventually going to evolve into, Chuck, it's going to be, hey, thanks for noticing. My team and I work really hard to make you extremely happy with the way that this process is going, because we want you to become an advocate of our business, and we need you to refer us to somebody you care about. Please don't keep us a secret. That conversation happens 4 to 5 times from the start of a loan to the closing. I'm telling you right now, you will increase your opportunities by 60%. Because here's what happens. Most people will gladly help you if you ask. But because we're too prideful, or because we don't orchestrate the situation correctly, we tend to stand up at the plate and we swing and a miss every time, and we get pretty used to not getting what we expect in return, not only because we don't ask for it, but B, we don't set the stage to make sure the client agrees to it. And I'm going to work through that all with you over the next several weeks. But right now, I just need you to focus on that simple statement of thanks for noticing. Can you do that for me, brother?
This is making sense. So I got a buddy who's a wealth management guy. He pays himself $100,000 a month just because he likes that number.
Yep.
And he tried telling me this stuff probably 2.5 years ago. It's kind of like scripting. You're kind of scripting the client's head throughout the process. You're kind of getting that message into their head. Subliminally is a bad word, but whatever. It's scripting. No,
what you're doing is you're beating it into their brain very forcefully, and very, very conversationally, and very relationally, because I don't believe that I can expect people to give me what I need if I don't ask them. And I'm not going to ask them unless they've agreed to it in the beginning, and I will not take on a client who doesn't agree to it in the beginning, because then I'm shooting myself in the foot by taking a client through the process, giving myself away unconditionally, and getting nothing in return. That is the worst business model you could ever design.
Yep. Yeah, it's all making sense. Yeah, I didn't, when he was trying to tell me about this stuff, teaching me, I mean, he pays himself $1.2 million a year. I wasn't quite getting it, but he scripts his clients' brains the entire process from day one. I mean, he's bold enough to the point where, you know, when we're done, this is going to be the best, you know, financial planning experience you've ever had. You're going to be amazed when we're done. You're going to want to tell everybody that you know when we're done that this was the best thing that you've ever gone through. I mean, he does it the entire process. I mean, now I wasn't able to hear it when he was telling me about it 2 years ago. Now it makes sense.
Right. So what you're going to do then over the next week is do that. And I just want you to realize how many times, because that's going to be the beginning of your validation of how good of a job you do for people. I don't care what the job is that you're doing, just the fact that you do it to really validate that you are that kind of a person, that you are somebody who knows what they're talking about and understands what they're doing and understands the value of relationships. Now all I'm going to do is just tweak the way you do it in a couple areas so that what you do every single day already has a more definitive outcome. You're going to learn to be more surgical with your conversations. You're going to learn to be more deliberate and intentional with the words that you use, and you're going to start impacting your audience in a way that they naturally gravitate towards, because all we're going to be doing is articulating our value in a way that makes people see us for the way that we are in our heart, but they've never had anybody say it to them. And that's going to be your attraction model.
So thanks. So when somebody extends a thank you or that sentiment to me, I'm changing my script to thanks for noticing. That's what you're
hey, right now, thanks for noticing. That's it. I mean, okay. We'll get past that next week. We'll evolve it, but right now it's just thanks for noticing. And if you feel like you can, say thanks for noticing. My team and I work really hard to make you happy for, my team and I work really hard to make you a raving fan. We are counting on you to refer us to somebody you care about. Now, I can get into all the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming about that statement in and of itself.
Oh yeah, no.
But unfortunately, I've got a couple.
I believe you. You don't need to. I believe you.
So the reality of what you're doing is you're really deepening the conversation, and they don't even know it. But what they feel is a very genuine sense of connection to somebody, because you positioned yourself to ask at the right time, and you're saying the right words in a tone that really is authentic, which promotes you're elevating yourself beyond everybody else that they've ever associated with in this business. That's the goal. Brother, I'm 5 minutes late for my next call. I got to let you go. We will pick this up next week, Thursday, 9:30. I will send you and Steve the replay as soon as I'm done converting it.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon, buddy.